Hey guys, this is Lachette from Scarlet Moon Creations and Happy New Year 2020. This hat is not going to stay on, so I'm not trying that hard to fix it. But this is day one of Booktube Spirit Week. This is a event created on Booktube by Carrie the Book Bell, and so Booktube Spirit Week is like most schools' homecoming spirit week. Even though I've never been at a school that had a homecoming, I did create a spirit week for my undergrad because I was part of the planning committee for my fellow students back then. So anyway, Booktube Spirit Week lasts from January 6th to the 10th, and every day has a different theme. I'll quickly go over the themes and then start on what I plan to do for each day. January 6th, today, when this goes up, is Decade Day. January 7th is Worldwide Day. January 8th is Tacky Day. January 9th, Fairy Tale Day. And January 10th, Booktube Pride Day. Now, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do for each day. We kind of had like something similar in high school. It was just senior week, and again, there was no homecoming or whatever, so we just dressed up. And we had something similar in college, but I also planned activities to go along with those. And obviously this is YouTube, specifically Booktube, so there should be something related to books for each day. Cue scratching my head in between making like 20 other videos for the last month or so. I appreciated the heads up so I could pre-film these videos, but I'm only pre-filming by a couple of days, unfortunately. So, for the most part, I decided to do tags. My channel is not specifically a Booktube channel, so I don't have exclusively Booktube content, and I've only committed to Booktube content in the last few months, so I don't have very many tags, and there are a lot of cool ones out there, so I decided to go with it. I decided for this video, the Decade Challenge, I would go with a 20s theme. You can't see very much because I don't have a lot of room in here. And I'm going to take this off now because it's going to fall. Anyway, it's 2020, roaring 20s, they go together, right? Yes? Okay, good. Because I set up my bullet journal for 2020 with Art Deco theme, and the same for my January bullet journal setup, if you care. It's not just Booktube spreads. In fact, there are no Booktube spreads. It's planning, which is what I've done most on this channel. But I decided, I'm reaching for my notes here, that for Decade Day I would do the Decade Challenge. This was created by Rincey Reads, and I'll link the original tag down below. I planned on doing this anyway, and then when the days for Booktube Spirit Week were announced, I was like, oh, this fits perfectly for the first day. So now that I've explained everything and what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the week, for the most part, there'll be some surprises. Let's get into the Decade Challenge prompt. Okay, so question number 1. What was your favorite book in 2009? So I probably should have said before I started that I didn't keep track of my reading on Goodreads in 2009. Sorry. I didn't join Booktube until 2011, and then I didn't really use it until 2014, I think, maybe 2013. So things are hazy. However, I did read a lot back then. I had a lot of favorites come out that year, in 2009, I mean. I um I was doing very well in life. I had a very good job. I was making a ridiculous amount of money, and I knew I was going to the bookstore pretty regularly, um, and just purchasing the books that I wanted as they came out. 2009 is one of those, is definitely a year where I had the money to do so. Just go to Barnes and Nobles or occasionally Borders, went back then, and buy a book. So while my memory is hazy about exactly what my favorite book is, thanks to the fact that I have added the books that I own to book reads. I looked through to see what came out in 2009, and I'm pretty sure that I can be certain my favorite book of 2009 is Vision in White by Nora Roberts. I still own this book, but I'm too lazy to go get it. I don't have bookshelves. They're in a suitcase, which is under some boxes. So here it is. Um, why am I certain this is my favorite? When several of my other favorite authors came out with books, and I had some new faves that year as well. It was a good year for reading, I'm pretty sure. But I say this is my favorite because this was a surprise. I am a huge Nora Roberts fan, but I wasn't expecting this series. I think because I had been so busy with work, I wasn't keeping up with what she had planned to come out the way I had in the past, like when I was in college. And the Bride Quartet series caught me off guard. Vision in White is the first book that came out that year. And the series is about event planners. They're four sisters, and they own a wedding planning business, and they each take care of various parts of the business. One's a photographer, one's cake maker, one's the planner, and I forget what the other, I think she's the florist. So I believe the first book is about the photographer sister. I don't remember her name, but I loved it. I am a huge fan of Nora Roberts, and then she came out with a series about four sisters who were event planners, and I was an event planner. I did wedding planning, and it was just, I felt so seen, and ah, ah, it's super cool. I loved every aspect of it, and that's why I say the event planning part is what I think probably kicked it over in my head to my favorite book of 2009. But anyway, let me stop gushing. But question 2, what was your favorite book of 2019? And this is a little bit of a spoiler for a future video, my favorites, but it shouldn't be if you saw my mid-year freakout tag video, and that is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. I love this book so much. Again, I feel so seen. It's a romance novel about an asexual character, or specifically demisexual, and that is the first book I've ever read with a demisexual character. And wow, I also just really like her as a person. I would want to be her friend, even though there's a huge age gap. There's just, I like that books that I feel represented by have been my favorites, bookending a decade. Question number 3, what was your least favorite book in 2009? Okay, so this was so much harder. I've only added books that I absolutely remember and or own to Booktube that to Goodreads that I haven't so I can't say for sure that this was my least favorite, but amongst the ones that I know I've read and remember, it's definitely a least favorite. Not the worst, not bad, just not as favorite in my head as the others, and that is In Shade and Shadow by Barb Hendy. So this is part of a series that I loved, and it's actually the first book in a new companion series, and it follows McGear, I think that's how you pronounce her name, and this was a series I picked up randomly, the first one, and I just loved it. It had elements, this is an adult paranormal fantasy series, and vampires and fae and other things, all elements I enjoy, and some romance and action, and like what's, the plot of a lot of fantasies is trying, there's some chosen oneness in it. But then this new series, which is continuing the story, but we're following who was a secondary character in the first one, was a bit of a letdown. And because I wasn't, in the know, I didn't know this was going to happen, I was surprised. And then Makira is not as active. She's not a fighter. She's not, she doesn't have magic or anything like that, or not a lot. And she is more of a scholar. So her adventure is more quiet than the previous one. So it was a little bit of a letdown, but I still enjoy her character, and I do want to finish this series because that was the last book I read in it. So I want to see where it goes. Next, what was your least favorite book in 2019? I'm not going to go into much detail about this because you'll have seen already in last week in my least favorite books of 2019 that The Light of the Fireflies by Paul Penn was definitely my least favorite book. Point blank, period. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I was really angry at the family's choices and why they did what they did. There's no justification, and there was no feeling for them, for me. No. That it was just wrong. But this is why we have laws and justice system, because if it was me, if I was one of those other townsfolk, but anyway, those people are stupid. Moving on. Question 5. What was a book published in 2009 that you still want to read? An Echo in the Bone by Diana Gabaldon. This is part of her ongoing Outlander series. And I talked about this series in the series I want to complete. I want to finish video, ongoing series, part 1, I think. I'll link it up above here or in my description below, but the Outlander series is a favorite of mine, and I'm now enjoying the TV show, which is I never expected to ever happen. It's a historical romance fiction, and I absolutely love it. The books are huge though, and I thought the series was basically finished years ago, but I was wrong, and they're super thick. I remember the overarching plot, and I'm thinking about whether or not I want to reread from the beginning because they are thick. Okay, question number 6. What is a book published in 2019 you want to get to before 2020? Now it's already 2020, so I'm going to switch this question up a little bit and say, What is a book that was published in 2019 that I want to get to before the end of 2020? And I should pick a standalone, but I love series, so I want to pick The Ninth House by Lee Bardugo. There's a lot about this that sounds like it's right up my alley. We have a somewhat traumatized young lady going to an Ivy League school that's actually pretty near me. And so I'm aware of how all of that setup is, and she winds up, I think, getting a scholarship to one of these to the school and entrance into a secret society because she has some sort of powers, whether it's paranormal or magic, mystical, whatever. And she goes to the school and things start going crazy. So I like the secret society aspect. I like the magical aspect. I like the whole Ivy League thing, the traumatized student. And honestly, all of the trigger warnings that I've been seeing for this has made me want to read it even more. So I have high expectations, high hopes for this book. Hopefully it meets at least some of them. Question number 7. What is a genre you used to read a lot of that you don't read as much anymore? And that is historical romance. For a couple of years, let's say 2011 to 2013, maybe even 2010, I didn't really read. I went through a really turbulent part of life. I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. And then I think I just maxed out the fines at the library, so I couldn't pay those and therefore couldn't check out books and therefore didn't read any new books. 2013, 14 and there on, I slowly started getting back into reading books, I should say, and it's been wonderful, but I've been finding suggestions from others, really, and so historical fiction is not anything that's been really promoted or suggested to me, and I would like to get back to that, like the Outlander series and others. So, yeah, especially historical romance. There are some authors that I'm behind on their series that I want to get back to, and I want to see like what's the historical romance scene looking like in the industry today. So if you know any YouTubers, booktubers who talk about historical romance, link them down below. If you have any suggestions, let me know down in the comments. I would very much appreciate it. Question number 8. What is a new genre you've discovered since 2009? Well, discovered like Columbus, I guess. I haven't discovered it, but it didn't exist when I was growing up. And this is not really a genre, it's an age range. YA and NA, new adult. So young adult and new adult. These things did not exist when I was a teenager, when I was a new adult, when I was in college, and then during my first job. Did not exist. The fact that they're super marketed now is amazing. I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. I do read them if I come across them, but I don't know that they do anything for me marketing wise. Like, it's the story. There were plenty of books and stories with young characters in those age ranges, but it was the content that told you whether this was a children's book or an adult book, I guess. And sorry, it's good we have more nuance now. It's just confusing for me who did not have that nuance before. I don't know. I just pick up whatever and like it or don't, I guess. I will say genre contemporary, YA contemporary was not something I didn't used to read a lot of contemporary outside of some romance books, and a lot of those weren't very good. So, other than maybe Nora Roberts, and then like thrillers and stuff. So YA contemporary is an interesting new thing for me. I haven't read a lot, but I'm interested in more. So, yeah. Question number 9. What is a reading or book habit you are hoping to leave behind in this decade? And for me, that is using books as an emotional crutch. I don't want to get into too long about this, but basically, when I feel bad, I pick up a book. When I'm tired, I pick up a book. When I want to feel comforted, I pick up a book. And that is great. But I would like more relationships to do that. And also, I feel like that hinders me from reading other things that I'm interested in. I also like reading for gaining knowledge sake, not just for comfort or emotional protection, I guess. And I find it really hard to read like nonfiction, even though I'm interested in the topic, because the times I read, the reasons I read, they don't comfort me. That's not the point of those books. So, yeah. How to fix that? I don't know. If you've had this problem or have this problem, let's talk about it in the comments down below. And question number 10. What is a new reading goal or habit you would like to create in the upcoming decade? And for me, I would like to read more international and translated books. That went really well in 2019, and I'd like to continue the trend. I know there's no way I'll read all the books in the world, let alone all the books in my local library or even the local branch of my local library, but I still want to try really hard. Just the idea of all these stories from other people, from other cultures, other perspectives is great, and I'm more open now to the idea of translated works. Before I wasn't, just because I was unsure about how good I could trust the translation, how true to the original it would be. So I'm kind of now embracing the fact that there might be some issues and just going with the story. And yeah, that is my decade challenge video. Thanks so much to Rincey Reads for creating this channel. She did not tag me. No one did. I don't know who to tag. If I do, I'll put them in the comments down below and link them on Twitter. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you want more Booktube content, give this video a like, subscribe, because there's more for Spirit Week coming up. And you can find my other Booktube content videos under the playlist The Magical Librarian. Thank you so much for watching. Have a happy new year. Bye.